The board states for the record that this meeting is being recorded by NORCAM and may be recorded by other local media. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, everybody, for your patience. We get obviously tied up with several matters in executive session that required a little bit more time than anticipated. This evening, Mr. Massey and Mr. Wallner are joining us remotely. Mrs. Moran was available for executive session, but is not feeling well this evening and will not be attending for the rest of the open session. So we appreciate her attendance at the executive session this evening. So therefore, if there are going to be any votes, and there aren't too many being anticipated other than to adjourn, it'll be by a roll call vote. All right. So this evening is primarily just a budget hearing session with the minor exceptions of acknowledgement and review of some release of some minutes. So it's just budgetary. We're going to do police, fire, emergency management, and Department of Public Works this evening. Again, Finance Committee is present with us too. We appreciate their being here. And with that, we'll start off with the police department, I suppose. Correct, Mr. Gilberto?
So we will start with the police department. Gentlemen, I do have your PowerPoint presentation here, and I can just toggle if you just want to see the next slide. Okay. It should be broadcasting through Zoom to people who are at home. So they should be able to see it, and then I know NORCAM is able to display. Just very briefly, I do feel it important to remind, especially those who are viewing this meeting and maybe didn't view our budget presentations last week. What you are going to see this evening are the requests of departments for the fiscal year 2027 budgets for their departments. It does not reflect what is being recommended at town meeting at this time, nor does it take into account roughly $760,000 budget deficit that we are currently working with for all municipal budgets for fiscal year 27. So while these are requests, the ability to fund everything that you're going to see, not only tonight, but last week and then a week from tonight, very much continues to be in question, and I believe the intention is for the board to have some workshop discussion or discussions in the next few weeks as we work to try to balance the budget. With that disclaimer being said, I will turn it over to Chief Zimmerman.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. With me is Lieutenant Joseph Thibodeau. He's my administrative assistant. He's not my administrative. He's the administrative lieutenant. He's the executive officer. Sometimes I think he thinks that he's my administrative assistant. But the first slide is just an overview of what the presentation is going to be. It's, I've cut a lot of slides out and just really want to focus on what I think is the priorities and what we need to share with the community. And so the first slide is going to be the 2025 review. If you want to hit the next slide. So I just want to review some of the things that we've done and accomplished in calendar year 2025, even though it's not fiscal year. Last March, we held our first Citizens Police Academy. It's the first one we've had in over 20 years, and it was received very well. And we are actually starting our second one tomorrow night. We'll begin our second Citizens Police Academy. The second part is officer wellness training. You'll see it as one of our goals and objectives that we have every year. In today's policing, officer wellness is, I think, more important than it ever has been before as far as recruitment, retention, and the overall wellness of the officers. And so, as you can see, in January 26, we trained our entire department in psychological first aid. And according to the instructor who teaches around the country, North Reading is the first department to have all of their officers trained in psychological first aid. So we're very proud of that fact. In June of 2025, we held a RAD class for the residents, which is a 12-hour program which incorporates awareness, verbal tactics, and defensive physical skills training into a self-confidence building program. So we held that. I think we had maybe 18 sign up and we had 12 graduate, and we plan on holding another class this year too. And I would just mention we are working with the schools. They're talking about potentially having a program in their schools, so we're working with them on that. Next is, in April of 2025, we implemented a body-worn camera program. So every officer has been outfitted with a body-worn camera, and we just felt it aligns with our mission of providing transparency and accountability to our officers. So far, it's been very successful, I believe, and we're hoping it. We've had some complaints, and when we reviewed the camera and offered to show it to the person, those complaints have gone away, which we figured would. In 2025, we responded to 17,846 calls for service, which required 4,847 work hours. This represented an increase in calls for service from 2024 by 2,079, or 13.1%. So those are just some of the things that I picked out from 2025, just to review what we've, some of the important milestones that we've had in the department.
Chief, how about accreditation?
So,
Put a little bit of applause to yourself.
yeah, so it's actually coming up
Okay.
in our FY, because it was one of our goals for FY26 here. So this is just an update of what our FY26 goals and objectives were. Regional dispatch transition. Throughout the year, we had multiple meetings, myself and Lieutenant Thibodeau with North Shore Regional, just to try to make it as smooth of a transition as possible. In November, as you see, November 18, 2025, we went live with North Shore Regional. It's been relatively smooth. We anticipated some questions and some, maybe, I don't know if hiccups is the right word, but just the way they do things and the way we do things, and tried to mesh them together. Even though we tried to plan out as much as we could, we still found some things. And you'll see further on in my presentation, it's still going to be a continued goal for FY27, just because it seems like we're still working through some of the kinks. But overall, I would say it's been very successful, and nothing really major that we didn't anticipate we'd have. And as Selectman O'Leary stated, in October of 2025, we went through the reaccreditation process, which is 341 standards, I believe you have to pass, and there's so many optional ones. And that's through the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. So they come in and they go through, there was 3 assessors and a facilitator that come into the department and go through every policy that we have, all our documentation, to make sure that we meet the best practices. And I'm happy to report in February 26th, they awarded us accreditation for the 6th time. We get assessed every 3 years. This began under Chief Murphy. Our initial assessment was in 2011, and this is our 6th time receiving accreditation. So.
Congratulations, Chief. I tell you, not easy.
No, and we had a brand new accreditation team, and we went from 5th edition to 6th edition, so that was brand new. Last time we got assessed on the 5th edition. This year this time we had to get assessed on the 6th edition. And an entire new accreditation team, new platform that we had to use. So it was quite a process, and the 3 sergeants that did an outstanding job getting us there. Next one. So another goal that we had is lieutenant and sergeant promotional exams, which we have every 2 years. So we held that in November of 2025. And we had 4 sergeants take the exam for lieutenants, and 3 patrol officers complete the exam process for sergeants. And so we have a current list, and if there is any openings that through retirement, which we anticipate at least 1 in the next 2 years. We also had an entrance exam, which we have every 2 years. We had that in 2025, September. We had 40 candidates that participated, which we thought was a good number, an increase of what we've seen over the last few years. From that list, we have already hired 2 new officers who will be beginning the academy in May, and we anticipate hiring an additional 1 to 3 more off of that list, based upon pending retirements or potential retirements. So it's really been successful for us to have, and we've got a good group of candidates. So grants that we received, we're going to receive, the Drug-Free Community Grant, which is also, you'll see, as part of a goal for FY27. What you see up there, the $31,250, represents 25% of the DFC Director's salary and benefits. So this is the 10th year that the town received the DFC grant. We're not eligible to apply for it any longer, and the grant expires on September 30th of 2026. So for the first quarter of FY27, the DFC Director's salary and benefits will be covered under the grant, but beginning on October 1st, 2027, that grant is no longer available to the town. So we're going to be seeking an additional funding source to maintain that position, which you'll see in the presentation. We received $20,000 from the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health. This is the money that we use this money to cover the cost of the psychological first aid that I spoke about earlier. So we were able to receive that grant, which offset, I think it was close to $18,000 to have that class, but we got it covered by the DMH grant, and that was done through our mental health substance abuse clinician, Laura Miranda, applied for that for us, and we received it. So that was that. The last grant update you see is the DOJ ballistic vest partnership, which we have to supply officers ballistic vests, and they expire every 5 years. That cost is covered by two sources. One is through the Federal Department of Justice, and the other 50% comes from the Commonwealth's Executive Office of Public Safety. This year, what we've done is, because we get reimbursed, and by the time we buy them and get reimbursed for the grant, it's kind of backlogged. So speaking with the finance director this year, we put it on as a capital request to put that money into the capital, and it would almost be like a fund. She could probably speak better to it than I can, but just that's where it is. So it's not, that $25,000 that we would be asking for this year is not in our budget, because we're anticipating it might be part of capital. So having said all that good stuff, our proposed FY27 budget reflects an increase of $361,159 at 7.6% from the appropriated FY26 budget. This next slide, I just picked four increases, significant increases. The first one is police personnel costs, and that is, you can see, is $232,748, and that's due to contractual pay raises for all the officers, and this includes animal control. Also in that, it's kind of misleading. I'm not trying to mislead, but we're just trying to break it out. Part of that $232,000 is also the $83,014 that I'm requesting to authorize the addition of one sworn police officer. So that $83,000 is encumbered in that $232,000 number. The second number that you see up there is $74,944. Like I mentioned, with the DFC grant, which expires September 30th of 26, the $74,944 reflects 3/4 of the current salary, of her current salary and expenditures. So that would be to pick up and fund that position from October 1st to June 30th. So that's what that number reflects. The $83,014, like I mentioned, is to add an additional police officer to restore a full-time school resource officer assignment that we did have, and then recently in January we transitioned to 2 part-time school resource officers, which we're in the beginning stages. It seems to be working okay, but I think ultimately the best service to the community is to have a full-time school resource officer. So that's what I'd be requesting that for. And the last number, the $18,212, is officer wellness training, same as like before the psychological first aid. This one is suicide understanding and preventing suicide in law enforcement in the community. We have that up there at $18,212, but we will also, we're going to seek out and request to see if we can get another grant through the Department of Mental Health. We're not guaranteed that, so that's why you'll see that up there, but we certainly will seek out a grant to pay for that training if possible.
Excuse me, Chief, on first line there, you said that there is an additional police officer in the 232
Yes.
plus an SRO.
So, no, the additional is the SRO. So
Okay,
that,
so the 83 is in the 232?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
I just broke it out just because it's such a big number.
Right.
That I broke it out just so you would know where part of that was. But that 83,000 is part of the 232.
Okay, thank you.
So this is just a breakdown of the budget comparison from FY '26 to '27. You can see payroll went up 304,000.
Excuse me, Chief, just put the,
Yeah,
how many officers do we have, sworn officers and administrative staff? How big is your department?
32 offices. 32 offices, 3 civilians, and 4 matrons, and 3 reserves. And animal control. Yeah, so what that number comes out to is 39, I'm guessing, right around there. So right now we have 32 sworn officers, and we're looking to increase that to 33. And we haven't increased it, I don't know the last year that we increased the number. I think it was when we originally got the school resource officer years ago was when we actually increased up to 32. So we haven't increased since. That had to be, and it was Chief Murphy, so I'm guessing 14, 15 years ago was the last time we increased our sworn force. Expenditures, you see an increase of $40,000. Some of that breakdown, I can certainly go over if you'd like to where that is, but there's an increase in that, which is 12.9%. Small capital, 16,000, and that's for the cruises. That the small capital is the 2 Mark cruises that we request this year, and it's an increase of 16,000. So the total budget goes from $4,768,997 to $5,130,156, or 7.6%. And like I said, I'd certainly be open to answering any questions, anything specific on any of those. So the next is, like it said, the small capital, the fleet management update. Besides the vehicle costs this year, every year we've been asking for two new Ford Explorers. This year we were requesting a 2025 or newer Ford Explorer, depending on when we get them, and a 2000 and a Chevy Tahoe. And the reason for the Chevy Tahoe is we are anticipating using that vehicle as a supervisor's vehicle and be utilized as like a command post when they go out to incidents. And we're just finding the amount of equipment that we use in a cruiser and what a supervisor would need to actually run and control a scene if they had to use their vehicle as a command post is getting overwhelming, that we feel like a Chevy Tahoe, which is be a little bit bigger, would give us more room in the patrol to have the necessary equipment. So that's where that request is from. So that's really where the $16,000 increase comes from. So FY26 goals and objectives that we had, like I mentioned earlier, is to continue to transition to regional dispatch. Even though it's gone well, we're still working things out. We still have meetings regularly with the regional to go over things. One of the other goals that I put in there was research and potential implementation of a comfort dog program. I've talked about it for a few years or a year or so, and still trying to work out if it is the best fit for the town, if it is the best use of services for the town, and we haven't gone to that yet. We're still in the reviewing stage, but that's something I want to continue to at least research and potential implementation. And if we do feel it is a good program to bring back, then I'd certainly bring it back to the select board, the town administrator, and the town to see if we want to do that.
Hasn't there been a move afoot to raise some funds initially?
So I've talked to a few different sources. I've talked to the schools, the CIT, the coalition that I'm part of. We've talked about it with the coalition, and they have agreed to take on the lead of fundraising for the program, if that's something that the town wishes to move forward with. So there has been some research on it as far as the funding source, and the idea is the funds wouldn't come from the town, it would be donations and volunteer, and that's through the schools and potentially through the coalition with the CIT.
And the annual cost associated with it, approximately?
The annual cost isn't that much. It's the initial upfitting, so it's the upfitting of the cruiser, it's the upfitting of the, to purchase the dog. So that's really where the initial, initially our goal was to try to fundraise $40,000 to start up the program, and that $40,000 would be the upfit, everything, get the dog, and I believe we figured it would be at least 10 years worth of enough money to run the program for at least 10 years without needing any additional resources for it. The third goal you see is the transition from the federal DFC grant. As we talked about that before, how that's going to work, what the responsibilities of that position are going to be, and how we're going to actually deal with that. We have to work out if we're going to continue to fund that position and utilize that position. So that's something we'll have to do. The other one, as I mentioned, in the $83,000 is hire an additional officer to be signed as a school resource officer. And then the last one is continued trainings for officer wellness. So those are 5 goals that we've set out for FY27 that we could utilize through this budget request. I have the next slide is the drug-free communities directed objectives, and this is her objectives would be, if the position continued to be funded, as you can see, develop coalition sustainability plan past the 10 years, increase collaboration with Northeast Metro Tech to serve North Reading students, partner with each elementary school on a prevention project of their choice, in addition to Catch My Breath, which they currently teach, and then orient the new SROs to student education. So currently our SRO, Paul Lucci, does a lot of teaching with Amy in the schools. So it would be to orient the 2 new part-time SROs into being able to teach in the schools with her. And then the last is develop unfunded 12-month action plan for October 2026. This slide is from mental health substance abuse clinician Laura Miranda. Develop and deliver foundational mental health training tailored for all employees. So she does a lot with us, a lot with the fire department, and this is more to reach out more globally to the town. Partner with library, community-based locations, drop-in sessions. So she started doing some drop-in sessions. She does some with the veterans. I believe it's every Thursday, one Thursday a month, she does drop-ins for the veterans. Service officers strength cross-system collaboration with nearby court-based clinicians. Continue to enhance and expand internal officer wellness initiatives by exploring and implementing innovative evidence-informed strategies. So the officer wellness trainings that you see, a lot of them come from Laura to me. She does the research on them, and she'll attend some of these trainings, and then she'll bring back what she thinks is the most relevant and best suited for our officers to be trained in. So she continues to do that on a daily basis. And so the last slide pretty much is, so it reflects, as I said, an increase of 361, 159, and it's 7.6% from the appropriate FY26. And we ask for your support and leadership and partnership as we work to overcome the town's challenges. And the last one is just the text a tip that we have up there, the program that we have that's funded through the DFC. And that's my last slide, but I'm certainly will answer any questions that I can on the budget.
Board members, Mr. Wallner, Mr. Massey, any questions? Chief, Lieutenant Thibodeau?
No questions. Very robust presentation. Thank you for all you do. You're covering a lot of bases.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions at this
The only question I have,
Yeah.
and again, we've had some conversation offline regarding this, and I know you're not presenting it this year, but I think the public needs to be aware that, as far as the staffing level right now, you have an inordinate number of officers that are held over for coverage when someone's out or incidents taking place, and a significant number of officers and holdovers per shift, per day, which would indicate that there's a need for additional staffing in order to grant some relief. What people don't appreciate and understand is that these officers are working long hours, on days off, weekends, holidays, which significantly impacts the quality of life at home. Want to just address that a little bit, just to raise people's awareness, and I know you're not asking for
Right.
really what we need to do.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. So what we talk about as far as officer wellness and recruitment and retention, and it's not just in North Reading, but we see it in North Reading, is our young officers, they pretty much know when they come to work in the morning, if they work in the day shift, they're going to be there until at least 9 o'clock, if not 1 o'clock in the morning. So they plan on working, 15 to 20 hours a day. And it's based, because right now, currently, we're 3 officers down, we're 3 officers short, and so we have to cover those positions. And then when we have details, it only exacerbates the problem. And then these officers, they might, on their 4 days that they work, they might work 60 hours in those 4 days. So then their 4 days off, they don't want to come back into work because they need time away. So the problem just keeps rolling over and rolling over. So there is no ideal solution, but as Mr. O'Leary said, the ideal is if we can get fully staffed, then that will help us with these holdovers and force-ins. And what I mean by holdovers is, the difference is, a holdover is if somebody is working and the next shift somebody takes off and we can't fill it, we hold over the junior officer from the previous shift, so they have to stay. So they might come in at 6 in the morning and we fill the shifts at noon. They don't know if they're going home at 4 o'clock when their shift ends, or if we're going to hold them over to 1 o'clock in the morning, because they can be held, not 1 o'clock, I'm sorry, 11 o'clock, because they can work 18 hours in a 24-hour period. On top of that, if there's nobody that we can hold over from the previous shift, then we have to force people in. So they're on their days off, they're home, they could be away, they could be up in New Hampshire or whatever, and we call them and say, you're forced in. So at noontime, we could call them and say, you have to be here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you have 3 hours if you're at the beach or wherever you are with your family to pack up and come back here and work. And they could be held till 1 in the morning or 7 in the morning. So it's really affects the mental well-being of the young officers and quality of life, because even though they're on days off, they're not guaranteed that they're gonna not have to come into work. And this isn't, I think every police officer, when they come in, or firefighter, first responder, recognize that if there's an emergency, they're gonna have to come back and help. And I don't think there's any issue with that at all. Our officers are great as far as that. If we need help, we put out an emergency call, they all come in. It's the day-to-day to cover a shift that really wears on them. And we're seeing younger officers, they do it for a few years and like, I'm not doing this for the next 32 years. This isn't for me, and they leave. And it's systemic throughout law enforcement, but we're seeing it particularly hard right now, like you said, because we're 3 officers down. So a 32-person department and having 3 officers down really affects that callback and forcing.
And again, this is not an occasional happenstance. This is on a regular, daily basis.
Yes.
And so I just think the public needs to understand, and board members, I don't want it to be unnoticed. I want it to be noticed, and it's certainly appreciated. But at some point, it's got to be addressed.
Yes. Yeah, and we're trying to do it, like you said, it's all those goals, like the entrance exam and the promotional exam, is to have these lists available so when we do have openings, that we are able to fill them. And the town's been great. Like you said, we hired 2. They're going into the academy in May, and the officers that they're replacing might not be off the books officially till like June, but the town has allowed us to at least get the process going, because realistically, it's about a year Well, by the time by the time somebody starts the academy and we can get them on the street to work by themselves is about a year, because the academy's 6 months long. Then they come out of the academy, we put them through a 10 to 12 week FTO program, field training officer program, depending on their experience level. So from start of the academy till they actually get on the road by themselves is almost a year. So even though we're hiring somebody, we really don't see the advantages of that for a year. And so those open positions that we're filling, these officers felt we have to backfill with overtime, which creates a problem.
Done.
Chief, just a question for you. You're saying you're down 3 officers, and I look at your personnel spreadsheet in here, it shows only 1 replacement. Are the others not in the budget, the ones that you're down?
So when I say down, maybe it's not the correct term. We have 2 that are out injured, that have been out.
Oh, okay.
So they're on the books, but we're not sure if they're coming back.
Gotcha.
And so those 2, and then we had an officer, he resigned, when did he? January. He left in January. We had a family emergency with his family.
Okay.
And he took over his family business, so he left in January. So he's out, and then we've had 2 out that have been out for almost a year. They've been out injured for a year. So those are, when I say 3, those are the 3. So it
Okay.
wouldn't reflect
Okay.
correctly.
I thought you were saying there were 3 open slots.
No, we have 1 open spot and
One,
2
yep.
2 anticipated retirements from
okay.
the injuries.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, you mentioned, I seem to understand that some towns have had trouble finding good qualified candidates. Doesn't appear with 40 you have. Is that, am I right in hearing that that's a good qualified group, that you feel you're getting top-notch candidates?
Yeah, I think we are getting good quality candidates, so I would just mention that out of the 2 that we did hire, we brought in 15? We brought in 15 out of the 40 that passed the exam for initial interview, and we're kind of, I think we hire hard, so we don't run into problems, so we brought 15 in, and out of those 15, we moved 5 or 6 onto the next phase of the process, and we eliminated the other 9, and then out of that, then we reduced it down to the 2 that we did hire, and another one additionally we potentially will hire out of that. And we have another one, he's in the academy on his own, that could be a potential candidate if we open something up.
That's great. And then retaining retaining someone once we have them, what is our rate better than most? Is it, do you have a sense of that?
So we're average, maybe a little bit above average would be. We're not the highest, we're not the lowest. And I think what is a benefit for us in North Reading, because we're not the highest paid, is because of the quality of life, is the 4 and 4 schedule. So our officers work 4 10-hour days, so they work 4 days on and then they have 4 days off. Not many departments in the state have it, maybe 10 or so. And so that is a great quality, and we hear that from officers that transfer from other departments that come here. And when we talk to them about what attracted them, of course, everybody wants pay, and like I said, we're above average. We're not the highest, but I think the 4 and 4 schedule, and they have a pretty good days off program in their contract that they've negotiated. So those are some of those things are what attracts these younger officers to the department.
So that gets to Mr. O'Leary's point, like, if we aren't staying within those 410s, we better stay within the 410s, because that's a big attraction piece, right? I mean, that's...
From what I've seen and what I've talked to the younger officers, it's definitely one of the things we hear the most of what attracts them to come here, if they're deciding between 2 departments. And really now is, I know I'm the old guy, but before, like, you would take the civil service exam and you would go where you were hired. These younger officers, they're really in the driver's seat. They can pick whatever department they want to go to, because every department in the state is hiring. So if somebody's qualified, they can go to another community and get hired. So it's really, you really have to be attractive to them. And like you said, the 4 and 4 certainly helps us.
Thank you very much.
Any other members of the FinCom have questions, comments?
I have one question. So on the Chevy Tahoe, I'm curious, is that a net new vehicle add, like to the pool, or is it a replacement?
It's a replacement.
First, like, okay.
Yep. It would be replacing one of our Ford Explorer. So we have 8 line cars, and every year we request 2, so they roll over, just because of the maintenance of them and everything like that. So we have a Ford Explorer Supervisor's vehicle currently that's semi-marked, and this would be replacing that.
Okay.
Who got saddled with that responsibility when Lieutenant Romeo retired?
Sergeant Mara.
Offer my sympathies. Trying to maintain and keep that fleet up to date.
Yeah, it's not easy,
Not easy, yeah.
but yeah, he does it, and he actually gets a lot of help from Chris. You know, Chris is behind me, but Chris helps him a lot. So, but he does a good job with it. It wasn't easy.
Any other questions, comments? If not, Chief, Lieutenant, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Appreciate
Yep.
all that your officers do for us, and
Thank you.
thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you for all the support.
All right. Other than that, Chief Stats, you're up, you're on deck. Deputy, welcome to the administrative side of things. How's that working out for you?
Love it.
Love it.
I can run it, yeah, just you want to say next slide, it's what you gave Jen earlier.
Perfect.
Yeah, that way I can share it right out to Zoom too.
So Deputy, who's taking the notes this year? I mean, usually you'd be paying attention and taking the notes and say, okay, what are they saying about us this year? Okay, Chief, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Select Board. I wanted to thank you for taking the opportunity to let me present North Reading Fire Department's fiscal year 2027 budget request. I'm the Fire Chief, Don Stats. Next slide. So I think it's important, every year I open with a budget statement to tell you how important that we take the budgeting process and how serious we are accountable to its funding. So we're committed to serving the citizens of North Reading in the most professional, effective, and efficient manner possible. The services that North Reading Fire provides depends on funding from the town, which we treat and manage as our own through efficient budget management, transparency of what we request and spend, and accountability throughout the budgetary process. For this year's budget request, I'm requesting $5,707,964. That's an increase of $626,388 over fiscal year 26, which is a 12.3% increase. In that, and the large driver for that is a request for 4 additional firefighters. Our department responses in 2025 totaled 3,088, with 1,762 being medical, and of that, 1,279 medical transports. We received a total of $23,554 from the Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant. That's a state grant with no match. We also received a federal regional Assistance to Firefighters, or AFG grant, for $781,818, which was for replacing our SCBAs, and that was shared with 2 other communities.
What is SCBA?
Self-contained breathing apparatus, that's the air
Thank you.
packs that we use.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Through our ambulance transports, we have collected just shy of $1 million to date, with those collections still ongoing for the past year. We We also collected $15,000 in permit fees and $30,800 in master box fees. During this time frame, we also transitioned to North Shore Regional Emergency Communications Center for our dispatch services in November of 2025. So within this year's budget request, I've proposed an addition of 4 firefighters, which is an increase of $626,388 over FY26, which is carried in the operations side. Of the $630,000, this increase is carried in the operations program, which is increased in total by $630,138, of which $348,550 is tied directly to the salaries of the 4 firefighters. The EMS program has decreased by $1,750. The fire alarm and call programs have decreased by $1,000 each, while the mechanics program has remained the same. The mechanics program basically covers the cost of a software upgrade to our department scanner, which scans for problems in the vehicles, similar to your personal. So the big ask and the big reason why we're asking for this increase in staffing and the bigger change in our budget is to put on additional staffing due to our increased call volume, which also drives the need for increased emergency overtime. A failure of that emergency overtime system, and that all correlates to the safety of the community and the firefighters. So regarding call volume, in comparison to 2024, we increased our calls this year by 78 calls, or a 2.6% increase. Our EMS calls increased by 5.6%, or a total of 93 additional calls. And our medical transports increased by 13.7%, which was an additional 154 calls over calendar year 24. So to further illustrate the difference in calls, I always go back to the year that I first started. So in that 27-year period, and I'm going to jump right to the bottom numbers, our calls for service increased by over 1,000, with a 65% increase. Our our medical calls increased 87%, with over 800 calls increased medically, and our transports increased by 159%, by just under 800 calls. So what all that correlates to is a need for additional staffing. Our firefighters are out of the building more often for longer periods of time, which correlates to the callback system and the emergency overtime system, which I'm going to get to next. Next slide. So, describing our emergency overtime system, we have 2 buckets that we basically draw from. One being station coverage, which is selective. We only call back a limited number of off-duty personnel. The other being callback or box alarm callback specifically, in which we call back the entire off-duty force and anybody that's available for an actual incident or the potential for an actual large-scale incident, like a house fire, if we have a report of smoke coming from a building, any alarm received from one of our high-hazard occupancies, such as Greenbrier or Martin's Landing. So those are our 2 pools of emergency overtime. Regarding station coverage, since 2021, and it was a good starting point because everything before that was relatively the same or better. The station was fully covered 90.4% of the times. It was partially covered with maybe not the appropriate amount of off-duty staffing, 8.8% of the time, and it was completely uncovered 0.8% of the times. As you can see through the numbers, in 2022, that number started to decrease where it was fully covered only 64, just shy of 65% of the times, partially 28.3, and uncovered completely 6.8% of the times. Growing again in 2023, 41% of the times fully covered, partially 46 or just under 50, and uncovered 12% of the times. And it's basically hovered around there to this year where it improved slightly, or excuse me, in 2025 where it was fully covered just under 60% of the time, partially 32, and uncovered completely 8.8% of the time. So going to off-duty call, or box alarm callback. This is off-duty callback for all personnel's recalled, and that averaged 4.15 personnel per box alarm in FY25 out of 154 total boxes. So the whole purpose of the box alarm and the callback of those personnel is for additional resources, trucks and personnel for a potential large-scale incident. When we first started, or specifically when I first started, we had the majority of the department that came back on all of that, and staffing was never that much of an issue. We knew we would fill out the assignments, we would get the additional trucks and resources on the road. As you can see from basically 2021, when I started to really see a change, those numbers started to decrease, where the average personnel responding back on boxes decreased from 7.24 down to last year where it was 4.15 personnel per box. So that basically gets us another truck on the road and that's it, instead of a full assignment. So 2 trucks, an engine, or excuse me, 2 engines and a ladder truck, as well as an ambulance potentially. So we're not getting the responses back that we were normally seeing in the earlier parts of our careers, driving the need for staffing. So safety concerns continually drive the need for increased staffing in the fire department. The department has relied on a system of calling back off-duty personnel to supplement the on-duty staff for over 40 years, and very reliably for 25 of them. Over the past 15 years, that system has eroded to a point that can no longer be depended upon. Not having the correct amount of personnel is an extreme safety concern of mine, which directly affects the safety of my staff and the public. Call volume has increased over the previous year, with our calls for service at 3,088, which is an increase of 78 calls over calendar year 24. So what's driving people not coming back or being as willing to come back? Well, there's several factors. The majority of our staff now lives out of town, which is 61%, or 19 personnel. There are also a lot of younger families. A lot of them have second jobs that don't allow their employees to come back, as might have been the case back in the day when we first started. And there's a bigger stress on work-life balance, which I can't say is wrong, and it's probably a more healthier option. But all that affects the systems that we had depended on for many years. So, as I explained in previous slides, the department has increasingly grown busier while our system of getting off-duty personnel back to the station has increasingly failed. This creates potential safety concerns to members of my department and the community when there is not enough staff present to safely handle the next emergency. So during prior hearings, the select board expressed concerns with hiring additional personnel under the then current language of the contract. And through collaboration and partnership with between town leadership, assisting of the select board and town administrator with the fire department and the firefighters union, an agreement was first reached in March of 22, making increased staffing of the department possible through necessary changes in collective bargaining agreement, and furthering that endeavor with another round of successful bargaining in October of 24. Through that same effort, the town has agreed to move both police and fire to the North Shore Regional Emergency Communications Center for dispatching operations, which occurred on November 18th of 2025. That transition ultimately frees up a firefighter from dispatching at the fire department and increases our response strength by 1. As you're all aware from the beginning of my tenure as chief, my goal has been to have 8 firefighters on each shift. And that will allow the North Reading Fire Department to respond to 2 minor incidents at the same time, or respond to 1 major incident with multiple apparatus and a much safer staffing level to mitigate the threat. Reaching a staffing level of 8 firefighters per shift would be achieving my goal of reaching staffing levels where I believe the department needs to be at. By increasing shift size with the additional staff, the department can now handle major incidents safer or respond to 2 minor incidents simultaneously. The following are several slides which help highlight the commitment the town has already made in listening to my past year's requests and staffing the fire department to fulfill the needs I've spoken of. The last step of this lengthy process would be an approval by the Finance Committee, Select Board, and Town Administrator to add the final 4 additional firefighters that I'm requesting tonight. So again, that transition or that change within the department structure started in FY24. Go to the next slide. When I requested 4 additional firefighters, a fire prevention officer, and we started to really begin our transition to the regional dispatch system. In that year, the town funded the fire prevention officer that I requested, and that was a critical component of adding additional staff in future years, as I could now task what had been the primary duties of the deputy chief, which was fire prevention, inspections, and issues, to a separate individual, and focus the deputy chief into a truly operational role, separate of fire prevention responsibilities, which occupied much of all of the prior deputy's time. In fiscal year 25, I did request 4 additional firefighters, which were funded. We continued onboarding with regional, which was an 18 to 24-month process. 4 additional firefighters, the shifts increased to 6 firefighters. 1 still remaining at dispatch while we were onboarding with regional. Some of the effects of that were negotiated was that ambulance callback of at least 1 was reduced. And with 6 responding, we don't hire callback at all. 4 box alarm types no longer transmitted with 6 firefighters responding. So that all correlates to what we're doing as far as putting staff on, and we're able to produce overtime at the same time on a system that really wasn't providing what we needed. So I think the bigger takeaway here is that we're actually getting the staff we need at the station all the time. So currently in fiscal 26, we've added 4 additional, or I requested 4 additional firefighters, which were funded. We transitioned to regional dispatch, as I said, in November of 25. Ultimately, when everybody's trained and at the operational level, we'll have 2 firefighters on the street, and we'll be promoting lieutenants. There's a further reduction in overtime where we don't hire station coverage through that emergency overtime system between the hours of 11p and 6a, as well as the other ones I've already outlined. So as we get more and more components and staff in place, we're able to handle calls systemically much better and much more efficiently. It's really neat on slides and paper to show all these people in places, but there's the training component and the logistical component of that as well, where we're working through that right now, and that's what we're currently at. The 6 we've just hired are currently training with an in-house program. We have 3 in the academy, and the realization of all of them when they become operational is what you see on the screen right there. So for this fiscal year, I'm requesting another 4 firefighters to increase each shift to 8. With 8 firefighters, we will have the ability to run multiple companies to incidents, which makes things exponentially safer for the staff and the community, and makes our operations much more efficient while decreasing dependence on that emergency overtime system. At that point that we have 8 firefighters responding, All those prior emergency overtime savings are still in effect, as well as our system for box alarms, for the way we strike them now, will be eliminated as long as we have 8 in the station. The only time we'd be transmitting a box alarm or getting people to come back is for actual incidents that were confirmed. So in summary, safety continues to be the driving need to increase staffing of the fire department. Struggles to get off-duty people back in a timely manner, as you've seen in the graphs. And that's an unsafe condition for both my staff and the community, which is preventable. Our additional firefighters is a path that the town officials embarked on jointly with the fire department and worked collaboratively with the fire department through a successful negotiations process in 2022 and 2024, making additional staffing within the fire department possible. I would strongly urge you to make this your highest consideration during this year's process for the safety of the firefighters and the community, and complete the project we embarked on several years ago. I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chief? Board members, any questions at this particular point in time? Mr. Wallner or Mr. Massey?
None for me. I'm fairly familiar with all of this, so thank you, Don, for all you do, and your team that does a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set for questions at this time.
All right. Mr. Studo?
Yeah, I'll just say, overtime, not the overtime, with,
Yeah, different overtime. Yeah, overtime.
with more of the staffing. I know that, I mean, when we embarked on this a couple of years ago, I believe, and there was no exact science, but was 12 additional, before last year's 4 and this 4, 12 was the additional where the overtime would run almost flatline?
Correct.
Roughly?
12 is the number.
12 is the number. So this gets us 2/3 of the way there, which is not a small feat, if we do another 4. Like, meaning 4 we had, right, from the,
If we
I'm
do,
including the 4 from last year.
if we do this 4, that would make the 12.
It would. I just,
Make it 8.
I thought it would make it 8.
4/8/20.
Previous 4.
So 4 in 2020, fiscal 25,
Okay,
4 in fiscal,
okay.
this past, or currently in fiscal
Okay.
26, and then this 4.
And if I remember correctly, that number was pretty high. And when you compared it against 12 salaries, I mean, again, it's not an even dollar for dollar, but you are getting, you're saving substantial, but you have 12 more bodies, which just helps everyone, even managing it. Because I remember that was one of the first things that Mr. Carroll was nice enough to try to explain it to me when I first ran. I mean, and he had this whole thing, I mean, it just looked like one of those memes where he was just writing all over the board, and I'm like, this really doesn't make any sense. He's like, that's the point, right? It just, like, that you look at it and I'm like, okay, I get this is what we do. I'm like, but that's, it seems like it's just kind of like, it's on a hope that you can get people back.
Exactly.
Right, which is not the best strategy with public safety. So, no, I think this is really important. I mean, there's, like everyone, there's things we stretch budgets for at home, where it's like just must, and you just have to figure out how you're gonna do it, and this is one that I definitely think is very important, because, we don't have to rehash the discussions that has not even a question of age. The population gets larger. Right, and then anything happens. So, no, that's only my thoughts, that this is great. I'm happy in collaboration with everybody. Everyone's had a role in getting this done, everybody. Yeah, and there've been some bitter arguments, but that's just life, so it doesn't really matter. So, that's, usually if there's not a bigger argument, you're not at a resolution because it was too easy, as I see. So, those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Finance Committee, have any questions, comments?
Quick through you, Mr. Chair. I think you answered this question, but the ongoing cost of the 4 additional is roughly $340,000?
Yeah, just under
The
350.
salaries, the rest of it is one time?
That does not include benefits.
Correct.
Not including benefits?
Not including
Salary.
benefits.
Correct.
And on top of that, above the line is... Yep.
Great.
Yes,
I
yep.
have a question for you, Mr. Chairman. So 13% year-over-year increase in the medical transports seems pretty significant. What's the underlying drivers of that trend?
An aging population.
Aging population?
Yeah.
And then I also noticed that you have some ambulatory fees associated within that. I assume we're probably not making money off of that net. Is the cost more per ambulatory call than fees covered?
We recover our costs, and we're net positive on that.
Okay.
So a lot of the ambulance revenue that we're net positive on, funds and purchases our next ambulance. It provides for the paramedic training that I'm now sending people to school because we can't hire enough. Well, we can't hire paramedics right now. The lists are very, very dry, and everybody seems to be competing for the same pool. So now we found that through negotiations with the union and with the select board that when I hire a basic EMT, the agreement with them and one of their contingencies of employment is that they have to go and pass medic school and get licensed. And then they have to maintain that for their career.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to comment that over the last few years, significant progress has been made to get to the point where we're at.
Yeah.
And we can't fulfill our goals and actually realize the extent of needed public safety coverage, as well as controlling overtime costs and callback costs, unless we fully implement here. If we don't fully implement, there are additional costs that we're carrying all the way along with more personnel and kind of defeating the purpose. Again, this isn't a net savings. What it is it's a level of public safety protection where we can adequately meet the public safety needs of our community right now, as far as ambulance and fire safety and hazmat and everything else goes along with it, and alarm systems and all the firefighters do. But it really couldn't have been done without, first of all, this board and the previous board members here over the last probably 8 years or so, who really took a hard look at it, better understood how things were working and not working well, and figured out a way to ensure that we have good response for the safety of the public, and at the same time ensuring that personnel that are there are well protected too and have the coverage. And it could not have happened without the assistance of board members here, but the union members there, and again, Deputy Carroll, who was Captain Carroll and chief negotiator for a long time, really helped bring this to fruition. It was a good collaborative effort on the part of the administration, board, and the union members to really figure out how this could work, how it should be working, and how we're going to do it. So this is the last step, to really put something in place and implement the changes that are necessary to have the level of response that's really required, in order to meet the needs. We're in a very good position here in North Reading because of our ambulance service. We don't have to rely on outside ambulance services, which other communities are struggling with. The response and the trained individuals that we have is phenomenal because of the commitments that was made on both sides. And I too agree with Mr. Studo and my other board members that this is a high priority to ensure that we get your department where it needs to be. And as I pointed out just a few weeks ago, when we swore in 6 new firefighters, which is unprecedented in all the time I've been around here. But if not for the advocacy of not just you, Chief, today, but the prior chiefs before you, who were forecasting and could foresee what was happening here far more clearly than I could, some of the other members here. It took a long time to convince all of us here to do it, but we're all on the same page, and I would, again, reiterate that this is a strong priority budgetarily, and again, it's a big piece of change, and it's potentially at the sacrifice of other services that we currently provide, but it's a necessary one that needs to be made in order to protect the public. So again, I appreciate your advocacy, I appreciate the cooperation and transparency as far as the public. You're all very visible anyway, and very much appreciated throughout the community, and that makes it a little bit easier for us to advocate. But it's a necessary service that needs to be provided, and we need to do it well. and this is the best way we can do it. So, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your advocacy and your professionalism, and to all the staff that's there for all they do every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thank you very much.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Mr. Gilberto?
Not to end on a sour note, but I do think it's important, if this is something that is prioritized in the budget process, I think the finance director and I need to make people aware that there will be cuts elsewhere. If we're working through a budget process that requires us to work within, the long-established piece of the pie for municipal government, I just need folks to be aware that many of the budgets we heard about last week and many of the budgets that we're going to hear about in a week from now will be impacted, and there definitely will be impacts in the community. So, not disagreeing with the prioritization, that's not what I'm here to say, but I feel it's important for people to understand that, it's the last step, very well said. It will be the most painful, unfortunately, too. So, there's more, there'll be more time for those conversations as we go through workshopping and balancing the budget, but I just need to prepare the community that the services that many of us enjoy that are not public safety related, there will be impacts. So, thank you.
Thank you for saying that, because I forgot, conveniently forgot to mention it.
You started.
I started. All right. Chief Deputy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, did you want me to handle emergency?
Yes, please.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Emergency
Yeah.
management?
Well, you have.
Emergency management, yep.
Yeah, so,
Do you have another slide?
yeah, I have one more slide.
Let me just share this.
And we missed Theo.
We all miss Theo.
Yeah.
We all miss Theo. Big shoes to fill. Nope, back one, two. There you go. There we go.
All right, Chief.
Thank you. So this past year, I took over the emergency management role, and I'm still trying to get my feet underneath me and assess what we need. But what I've come up with is basically a 3-year plan to reestablish the local emergency planning committee here in North Reading and start getting committee meetings again. Update the North Reading's comprehensive emergency management plan with the state. That's our SEMP plan. I'm not sure where that's at right now. Create a continuity of government plan and also a continuity of operations plan. I think those are all priorities that need to be addressed. And I am doing further research on that with the state to see what all that entails. But I think that those goals in the next 3 years are enough to keep me busy and working in the town's best interest. My budget request for this is fairly small. It's $9,238, and the larger portion of that is just personnel and then minor expenses.
And this is coordination in the case of natural disasters, or
Correct.
what else?
Natural disasters, man-made disasters, anything that we might come across in our community. The SEMP plans are all specific to our communities, and they identify the hazards that we could expect to see, whether they're natural or man-made, as well as how to mitigate that the best, and the emergency numbers and contacts to put that in place. The continuity plans are all just that. So if something were to happen to our government, how does government continue? And same with the continuity of operations plan. If something happens within the town structure, how does the operation change and adapt to that, basically, to simplify it?
Where's the TA's bunker? Is that a
Yeah,
secret?
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only slide I have on this. Like I said, it's a small budget. I wanted to kind of highlight what I saw as the plan going forward in the next 3 years to shore up the town's needs.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well said, Deputy. Matt, well said.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Not a few words.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, welcome. Mr. Parisi, welcome. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. Progressing well. Hope to be back soon.
Glad to hear it.
Presenting from home, obviously, tonight, but I do have DPW manager there as well to support if necessary, answer any questions. I'll try to go through the slides quickly.
First and foremost, thank you, Joe, thank you, first of all, to you and all the DPW workers through the latest storm and ice and weather conditions. Again, as usual, our community was a shining light amongst the rest of the area here. You did a fantastic job in keeping up with it, and again, yeoman's work. Thank you very much.
I'll just note
I
that
agree, it's been
Challenge.
a hell of a winter.
it has been through Mr. Chairman, and I just want to recognize particularly, in the DPW at the garage, we were short 3 full-time positions for the last 3 storms, 3 storms, was it? And still managed to do okay, not ideal, but to do okay, based upon the hard work. Need to fill those positions, no doubt about it, and I think one of them is in the process to be filled right now, 2.
One just filled, 2 are vacant, and 1 is going to become vacant in the next 2 months.
So, short-staffed and still able to deliver, maybe not to the extent they would have wanted to, but I just want to recognize what you guys did. And Todd, yourself as well, I know you've got some limitations with the staff, 1 person, obviously, so thank you.
And again, the pride shows through. I mean, they work hard, they do a great job, and greatly appreciated, and doesn't go unnoticed.
A little bit of luck, too. If we had the snowfall they had in the South Shore, could have been a very different situation.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. All right,
Thank
Joe,
you.
sorry, thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, so next slide.
Next slide.
So these are the buckets we'll be presenting under the Department of Public Works, Sanitation, Fuel Administration, Engineering, Road and Streets, Snow and Ice, Street Lighting, Tree Care, Machinery Maintenance, Cemetery, Town Buildings, Stormwater, and Water. Next slide. So the budget, so sanitation is a budget request of $2,660,500, an increase of $1,174,176, 79% increase. This is a placeholder budget. We are waiting on proposals for solid waste collections. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Fuel budget, $215,000 level funded. That needs review for current pricing. The obviously situation in the Middle East has really changed things quite a bit. DPW budget, $3,356,276, increase of $126,281, 3.9% increase. Water enterprise budget, $5,699,409, decrease of $105,000, mostly due to a net decrease due to the payoff of the debt for 9 Mill Street. So the FY27 budget cost increase, decrease, a little bit of breakdown here. Increased primarily due to solid waste collections, pending new contract. Level funded fuel budget was based on stable fuel pricing prior to Middle East. Situation needs adjustments. Increase in DPW division personnel costs of $72,000 due to contractual obligations. Increase in combined DPW division expense $117,721. Level funded DPW division miscellaneous small capital requests at $40,000. Increase in water enterprise personnel and expense costs of $118,052. Increase in water enterprise miscellaneous small capital requests of $12,000. Increase in water enterprise indirect costs of $13,770. And a decrease in water enterprise debt service cost of $550,000. That was the street payoff. Next slide. Sanitation. And a lot of this we use. So the FY26 budget was $1,046,324. So the placeholder budget of $2,665,000 breaks down. It's an overall increase, as I said, $1,174,176. Small increase in personal services. The increase for cost of solid waste and recycling collections. So the FY26 budget for that item was $938,947. So the FY27 placeholder is $2,076,200, increase of $1,137,253. The other component is disposal. So the tipping fee, the FY26 tipping fee was at $102.76. We're budgeting for a 3% increase, bringing it up to $105.84 per ton based on the tonnage. Budget, we have an amount of $485,833. So an increase of $14,150 over prior year. In the hazardous waste line item, we're adding $20,000 to hold an additional event, so you'll see that as an additional service. Some notes on sanitation. So curbside trash recycling collections contract does expire in FY26 at the end. The current trash hauler is proposing to switch from rear load collections to automated collections only, starting in FY27. Public Works is soliciting proposals for new contracts starting FY27 for both automated and rear load collections. The line item for solid waste collections, as I said, was a placeholder. It needs to be adjusted to reflect the final negotiated cost of curbside trash collections once we determine that. There may be some additional transition expenses if we do go to automated collections. There will be some, transition time, if you will, and we'll probably continue with rear loads, additional costs for added labor for that continued rear load service. If we rent automated trucks, there's some cost for rental until new trucks can come in. A contractor will most likely not be able to just have trucks available. They will have to order new trucks for us in our community, and the lead time on those trucks uncertain at this time. Trash fees will also need to be reviewed and adjusted to reflect the impacts of sanitation budget increases, especially due to the curbside trash collection. And we do anticipate providing additional cost information to the select board as soon as it's available.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Joe, I just want to offer a couple of comments.
Sure.
Through you, normally our budget relies upon, to the tune of about 100%, covering the cost of the solid waste sanitation program through fees. And you see the increase, it's not quite doubling, but pretty close to it based upon those numbers, which would mean, close to doubling the fee in order to maintain our current financial standing. Certainly not sure that that's going to be palatable for the board or for the community, but to the extent we can't recover the cost increase in the fee, it adds to the budget deficit. So the $760,000 budget deficit we talked about at the beginning of this meeting and a week ago only increases with every dollar you can't or are unable or don't want to pass through in the sanitation fee. That being said, as we indicated, we'll be back in front of the board soon for a more detailed discussion about the options. Mr. Parisi is trying to solicit information from the market, and some of it has come in quickly, some of it has taken a little bit longer than we would like. But the idea is to have a sort of order of magnitude type discussion with you about what the cost might look like with the current provider, with some alternatives, including not transitioning to automation, so that we can make an informed decision before we enter into a contract. So that'll be at a future meeting. It could be as soon as next week, it may be the week, maybe the meeting after, but we are working to try to get that information for you and have been since January. So There are a lot of moving parts. I certainly don't want to get, I don't think it'll be productive to try to solve all of that here without that information, but I do want to provide that as some background and forecasting for what will occur next. So thank you for that opportunity. Joe, thank you.
Mr. Studo?
The current is it 75 a quarter?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So the worst case is a doubling of that. To put it in perspective, that's 82 cents a day extra. You know, kind of like the commercials when they say for 75 cents a day, you know, you can save the world. So just to put in perspective that we have had a very good run with trash. And most communities are way above this. And private couriers, if you have to get your own, because a lot of communities just go hire their own, I can tell you it is substantially more than, and just to set it, because if you can start there, and the worst case is just people to start getting used to the fact that, not getting used, that possibly, if we don't want to cut somewhere else, it would be 150 a quarter. Just put in perspective that for what things cost in the year 2026 and how important sanitation is to the community, knowing that, you know, when it gets delayed one day, it seems like there's an extra 1,000 people complaining of, oh my God, the world is ending. I literally could not go, I had to have a sick day with my employer to worry about my trash getting picked up. So, seeing that that's how people react, I'm just trying to put in perspective that the extra $75 a quarter, if we have to do that so we don't have to cut somewhere else, just put it in perspective before, you know, you go get the rusty pitchfork from, you know, the old bowling alley that went down 70 years ago. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you've reminded me, Mr. Studo, all of the costs we just talked about does not include the cost of purchasing carts should we go to automated collection. That's totally separate. Right now, pending before the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, the concept being that it would be funded separately from the fee with available funds of one sort or another. But all of that is to be determined as we go through the future discussion. So thank you. Sorry.
And then that's another $500,000.
Could be, yes.
Could be as much as $500,000 for the totes.
All right.
Mr. Parisi, continue. I mean,
Next slide.
nice one to start off with, but go ahead. It only gets better from here.
Sorry. So the fuel, the FY26 budget was $215,000. At the time this budget was being put together, it looked like we could level fund that budget at $215,000. So that's what you see before you. You know, again, those numbers for diesel and gas were at the time that Chris was really looking into, you know, that market and the cost for those fuels. So due to the current situation in the Middle East region, I think, you know, we really have to take a hard look at this again. We'll do so and come back with maybe some additional estimates of what we think diesel and gas would be. But right now, as you all know, it's a roller coaster, more up than down, but there's a cost increase for sure. So the FY26 budget, $109,766, requesting $200,375, increase of $10,609, made up of $8,609 to reflect contractual obligations, purchase services, an increase of $1,000 to more closely reflect actual expenditures for public notice advertising, purchase of supplies has been level funded, and other charges and expenses has been increased by $1,000 more closely reflect expenditures incurred for dues and memberships. Next slide. Engineering Division, FY26 adjusted budget $66,672, requesting $77,351. Overall engineering budget increase of $10,679. The increase in personal services of $10,679 is to add back the $98,000 in funding that was transferred out of the GIS coordinator vacant position to assist with the funding need of another department, and a small increase of $879,000 for contractual obligations. All other budget line items were level funded. Next slide. Road and Street, FY26 budget, $623,357. FY27 budget, $645,612. Overall budget increase of $22,255. Increase in personal services of $19,255. Level funded purchase services. Increase in purchase of supplies by $4,000. That was based on previous usage of future needs of the division. And a decrease of other charges and expenses of $1,000. There were no requests for miscellaneous small capitals. Next slide. FY27 expenditures were $548,217. The FY26 budget was the $175,000 that is completely funded in snow and ice. So at this point, we just expenditure report as of March 3rd showed a total expenditure of approximately $752,000. That was resulting in a deficit of $577,000. There's additional expenses that had been incurred and due to the recent events, snow event, will be added to this deficit. And as of March 4th, there was 67.95 inches of total snowfall, 29 events in total, 1 requiring no action, 18 requiring salt only, 4 requiring town plowing ins and outs and the small side roads and salting, 6 requiring town plows, hired plow contractors and salting. The FY27 budget is $175,000.
You might want to explain why we under budget.
Sure.
Again, annual, this is an annual explanation.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. So there's a state law that allows cities and towns to carry over a deficit for snow and ice expenditures from one fiscal year to the next. A condition on that is that you must match the prior year's appropriation. In our case, it's $175,000. So we continually appropriate that amount. For financial planning purposes, we carry an allowance for that carryover when we look at the next year's budget, although we've been using free cash to pay that dollar amount at the end of the season rather than carrying it over and having an impact on the following year's budget as a budget balancing exercise. But the long story short is those who are involved in budgeting understand that we every year exceed the $175,000. We follow the best practice of carrying the amount in the future year to be carried over if necessary. And when it doesn't need to get carried over, it can be a budget balancing exercise, or when we have free cash available, which we did last year, we're able to pay for it with free cash and not affect the next year's budget. This year it'll be a little more difficult because of how big the number is. It may impact what we're able to do at town meeting in terms of warrant articles or capital investment. So we may see that come through in the recommendations for what we can fund, because other than negatively impacting next year's operating budget, we need to use free cash to pay that down. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and again, just, if we were to raise this number to $250,000 or $350,000, that then becomes our baseline carrying it forward. Each year, we can't appropriate any less than what we do. So it allows us more flexibility, and depending upon the weather, some years it's a win, and this year it's a loss. But so that's why we budget at that level. But we do take it into consideration. Mr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've also learned quite the education on this over the last year and a half. So thank you for asking the town administrator to explain it again. The question I have is, when was that 175 baseline set?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's at least 15 years. And Lorianne, I don't know if you're able to respond, if you know that it goes longer than that. What I can say is over time we have increased what we carry over in our budget plan from one year to the next, from I think 150,000 to I think it's 350 or 375,000 that we use in
we basically figure $500,000.
Yeah,
so basically we figure $500,000 anyway.
Thank you.
If we can keep carrying it, I'll know better. Thank you.
Okay, Joe.
Streetlights, so the FY25 actual expenses were $67,863. The FY26 budget was $80,000. We're level funding this budget. FY26 budget, $55,000. The FY27 budget has been reduced by $45,000. We reduced to $45,000, a $10,000 decrease. And this is mostly due, I think predominantly due to the additional work that the DPW crews can do now with the new bucket truck. So Chris has assured me that he's already seen, results where we've had many, tree issues that we've taken care of with a bucket truck that can lift 20 feet higher reach than the old bucket truck. So they've definitely saved some money there. Next slide. FY26 budget, $369,320. FY27 budget request, $403,770. Overall net increase of $34,450. There's an increase in personal services of $6,950. Increase in purchase services, $16,000. Increase in purchase of supplies, $500. Net increase in miscellaneous small capital of $11,000. In miscellaneous small capital, $15,000 is the request. Truck and equipment radio replacement and uplift with new backup cameras. Next slide. FY26 budget, $377,815. FY27 budget, $380,922. Overall net increase of $3,107. There was an increase in personal services of $13,107. Level funded purchase of supplies and purchase of services and other charges and expenses.
Excuse me, Mr.
Decrease in miscellaneous small capitals, $10,000 request last year. There was no request this year.
Excuse me, Mr. Massey, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, or maybe it's for Mr. Gilberto, do we get any grant money or state funding for cemeteries maintenance?
I can't immediately think of any state or grant funding that we are receiving. I don't remember if the restoration initiative that's being done by volunteers has any grant funding associated with it or not. I guess Joe could potentially speak to that. We do have a perpetual care fund, so funding that is set aside with the purchase of graves that can be used to defray the cost of maintaining over time. But I'm not aware of any direct grants coming to us, meaning the town, for the cemeteries, but I'll defer to Joe to confirm.
I'm not aware of any either. That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just, I guess, a little surprised that the state wouldn't pitch in for anything like this, but understood. Thank you.
The residents there don't vote. So.
But they don't complain.
They don't complain either, but yeah.
All right, next slide, please.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, ready for the next slide, please. Town buildings, FY26 budget, $841,007. FY27 budget, $876,705. Overall increase of $35,618. There's an increase in personal services of $3,898 to meet contractual obligations. Increase in purchase of services, $31,151. The utilities and repair and maintenance line item in this budget section has been increased based on anticipated increased expenditures for building utility costs and repairs and maintenance needs such as elevator maintenance, fire alarms, fire suppression systems, inspections, and a significant number of other building-related repairs and maintenance. There's been an increase in purchase of supplies of $1,569. Building supply line has increased 3% to account for general inflationary increases, and of course, the cost of various needed supplies. Other charges and expenses were level funded. Miscellaneous small capital has been reduced by $1,000 from last year's request. FY27 miscellaneous small capital request is $25,000 this year. Miscellaneous small capital budget will focus on repairs to the flooring of the circulation desk area and 2 front offices of the first floor in the library. Next slide. Stormwater, the FY26 budget, $451,978. The FY27 budget, $471,541. Overall increase of $19,563. Increase in personal services of $9,563, reflecting contractual increases. Increase in purchase of services, $10,000. Increased police detail line item by $10,000 for costs associated with culvert replacement projects planned for FY27. And purchase of supplies is level funded. Next slide. Water enterprise. Back one.
Back up. There you go.
Water enterprise. So the FY26 budget was made up of the personnel, $817,490, and in FY26 expenses were $3,001,793, no miscellaneous capital. The indirect costs of $550,808, and debt service of $1,734,596, which included payoff of Mill Street, for a total budget of $6,104,687. The FY27 budget request is $5,699,409. Personnel, $872,941, increase of $55,451 for contractual obligations. Expenses, $3,065,294, net increase of $63,501. The increase in purchase of water from Andover was $65,198, and decrease in other water department expenses totaled $1,697 for that net increase of $63,501. So the miscellaneous small capital this year is a $12,000 request for a mini excavator hammer attachment. That will be used for water department operations. Indirect costs, $564,578. That went up by 2.5% over last year. That's an increase of $13,770. Debt service is estimated at this point at $1,184,596, a decrease from FY26, again due to a $550,000 debt payoff of 9 Mill Street. So note here, debt service amount subject to change when new project bonding occurs in May 2026. Overall budget change is a decrease of $405,278. The water rates for FY27 will still need to take into account the expiration of the water supply contract with Andover come June 30th, 2027. That's the end of fiscal 27. In order to build up the reserve to subsidize the significant jump in the rate, Andover charges North Reading and avoid rate shock to our water users in FY28. Andover is still holding with a 50% rate increase in the upcoming fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman.
Next slide.
Through you, just as a reminder for the board and for the community, our water rate hearing rate projections last June called for a 15% rate increase in fiscal year 2026, this current year that we're in, and a 12% rate increase for fiscal year 2027 in order to keep pace with the investment being made in Andover and the corresponding impact of the cost for purchasing water as well as the expiration of the IMA. So, we certainly are looking at that as the likely recommendation or something close there too, just as a heads up for you and for the community as well. A 12% projected rate increase for 27. Thank you.
Just, it's also important to note that according to the terms and conditions of the intermunicipal agreement with Andover, North Reading rate will still be calculated at the lowest user's rate in Andover's. So if it's a 15% increase here, it's a 15% increase up at Andover for the lowest ratepayer. So, again, the more you use, the more you pay, and the higher the increase in the rate. So, the deal that we had struck with them a few years back tied our rate increases to their lowest rate payers in Andover. So while it's still substantial, they are making huge infrastructure commitments over the next 10 years, 10 to 15 years, 10 years. I think I read somewhere, was it 40 miles worth of...
They were trying to do 4 miles a year.
Yeah, trying to do 4 miles a year of replacement lines. And again, some of the discolored water that we've been experiencing this year is directly related to the condition of some of the lines up in Andover. So those improvements that need to be made there will certainly enhance the quality of water that we get as it crosses the line. So, while these increases are significant, we're part of the rate structure up there. You know, we're just an extension of it. So that when we signed this deal, you know, we bought into the whole program. Same way as if we went with the MWRA, we would be increasing our cost to cover the infrastructure investments that are being made for the MWRA, which are more substantial than they are up in Andover. So while it's still costly, it's still a pretty good deal. But it is rate shock because for the first 10 years we had favorable rates where they couldn't increase our rates more than 2.5%, even if they went up 5%. So that's expiring, and we're going to be on the same terms and conditions as all the other users up in Andover. So overall, still a good deal, but expensive.
All right, so summary of personal services budgets. So engineering, there was an increase in 10,679. Administration, an increase of 8,609. Road and street, 19,255. Tree care, no personnel. Machinery maintenance, there was an increase of 6,950. Cemetery and parks, 13,107. Town buildings, 3,898. Stormwater, 9,563. Water, 55,451. Total increase of personnel costs, 127,512. That's a 5.34 increase overall. Next slide. DPW budget expense summary. So engineering, there is no dollar change for engineering expenses. $2,000 increase for administration. $3,000 increase of road and streets. 0 for snow and ice. 0 for street lighting. A $10,000 decrease in tree care. $16,500 increase in machinery maintenance. Local funded cemeteries. Town buildings was $32,720. Stormwater expenses went up $10,000. Water without debt service and indirect costs went up $63,501. Total increase overall $117,721. 2.5% increase. Of miscellaneous capital requests that we made, Michigan maintenance for new radios and backup cameras for equipment, $15,000. Town buildings, library first floor flooring replacement, $25,000. And water department mini excavator hammer attachment, $12,000 for a total of $52,000 in miscellaneous capital requests. Next slide. Excellent. Questions, anybody?
Mr. Massey?
So, I'm sorry, real quick, this might be off topic, but do you know when the town hall first floor carpet gets replaced?
I know that it's been talked about. We've got it in a planning, but Todd, if you're there, you can comment on that if you have an idea of when you think that may happen.
Well, I asked for an appropriation through the capital committee this year for that project. It's still under review.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just one quick question.
Mr. Walden.
You have down parks as being part of your responsibility. How does that divide up between Parks and Rec, what they do? So how's that divided up?
It's, Mr. Chairman, through you. So it's under the DPW budget. That division has always included parks under its name. There are no parks that get maintained by that division. That division does the 3 cemeteries in town and the town buildings, the town common. I think it stems back from before there was a parks department, before there was the highway department or the cemetery department would mow the ball fields. Obviously over time it's gotten much more extensive, but it really could be taken out of that name because the cemetery grounds don't maintain.
Just for clarity,
Yep.
No big other reason, except for that reason. Thank you.
Mr. Studo, any questions? No? Finance Committee? No? Well, okay, so overall not too bad, Joe. We're looking at $1 million in sanitation, and that doesn't include the totes. We've got snow and ice budget that's out of whack. We've got, let's see, what else do we have here? Town building. And we got water bills that are going to go up significantly, 15%. All good news. But honestly, you and your department do a fantastic job for us. Much of it underground and not seen, but again, it's 24/7 for your personnel too, and it's greatly appreciated, and we do a fantastic job. We got good bang for our buck, and I'm glad we made the investment in the bucket truck and a few other pieces of equipment. Made a significant difference, so keep advocating and keep us informed. And again, yeah, as you say, cost of fuel is probably going to escalate in the short term anyway. So we'll have to be cognizant of that too. Thank you very much. Yeah, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to take a second to really thank my guys, down at the garage. The past, I don't know, feels like 6 months, but it's been, a month and a half between water breaks and snowstorms and ice storms and burials down the cemetery and potholes and everything else that they do. They've killed it. They've gone out of their way. Everybody is just ready for the next one, and it's, we're kind of all in it together, and they've done a great job. So.
And we've been told through the town administrator, again, with the short staffing, the rest of the guys have all just stepped right up and 100%, really 110, 120%.
Yeah, no, there's been several times where like I'm expecting guys to be like, I got to get out of here, and they're like, nope, we'll stay, we'll take care of it. So above and beyond my expectations of them.
Above and beyond, and again, it comes back to pride too. They all take a significant amount of pride in the work that they do and produce, and they really do. They take care of things like it's their own backyard, and they take great pride in it. It shows.
Thank you.
Very appreciative.
Thank you, Chris.
Everybody all set? Dismissed. All right, thank you. Mr. Gilberto, we have one more piece of business here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Right. So the next order of business is meeting minutes and acknowledgement of review. Mr. Studo?
Acknowledgement of review and release the following executive session minutes stated as the purpose of the executive session have expired. 2/22/2016, exemption 3, SSBC litigation. 4/4/2016, exemption 3, SSBC litigation. Acknowledgement of review and release the following executive session minutes for the purpose of the executive session have expired, subject to any necessary redactions pursuant to the public records law. 3/28/2016, exemption 3, SSBC litigation. Acknowledgement of the review and to continue to withhold the following executive session meetings for the purposes of such executive session have not expired and continue non-disclosure still warranted. 2/22/2016, exemption 3, health insurance. 2/22/2016, exemption 3, collective bargaining. Police. 2/29/2016, exemption 3, collective bargaining, health insurance. 3/7/2016, exemption 3, collective bargaining, health insurance. 3/28/2016, exemption 5, investigate criminal misconduct or consider filing of a criminal complaint. 3/28/2016, exemption 7, privacy exemption. 3/28/2016, exemption 2, non-union employees. 4/4/2016, exemption 5, investigate criminal conduct or consider filing of criminal complaints. 4/4/2016, exemption 7, privacy exemption.
Okay, we have one more motion. No need for a second, just acknowledgement.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Now a second.
Mr. Massey has his hand up, sorry.
Mr. Massey?
Sorry, I just wanted to state for the record that there were no votes for the SSBC litigation, that I did recuse myself.
Thank you. There was no vote.
Meeting minutes.
Okay, but just for the record, there was no vote, it's just an acknowledgement. There was no vote. So there was no need to
No,
recuse.
Mr. Chairman, this was an executive.
Before, he's talking about when we voted to redact and not release.
I see. But there wasn't, we still didn't take a vote.
We didn't? I
No,
don't remember.
there is no
We voted
vote.
on so many.
All right, there's no vote, but duly noted. So,
Motion to adjourn?
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Massey. Mr. Massey?
Aye.
Mr. Wallner?
Aye.
Mr. Studo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.